I've been an avid reader since I was probably 5, since I learned to read. And I also started to love writing when I was about 9. So I would start writing stories about like elvish princesses and mermaids and these underground worlds. And all of my characters on paper and in my head had long black hair, fair skin, and blue and green eyes. And so for context, I grew up in Hawaii, which is majority Asian American and Pacific Islander, both culturally and demographically. All of my teachers, up until I was in the 6th grade, looked like me. And even through high school, I think I only had around 5 or 6 white teachers. But nevertheless, all of my characters in my stories growing up did not look like me. As an adult, many years later, I became more conscious of this. I still love writing. And I still love reading. And so I make these conscious decisions to read books written by authors of color, even though they might sometimes be hard to come by or might not be as popular as books written by white folks. And so flash forward again a couple of years, I moved to Milwaukee about 3 years ago. And when I moved here, I was working at a school, and one of my coworkers asked me to join a book club with her. And she's from Lake Geneva. And she was having this book club she was putting together with a couple of her friends who are also from Milwaukee or the Wisconsin area, and who are also white women. And so I was eager to get to know some more people, and I liked the premise of the book club. They wanted to read books chosen by each member every month, so that you might read a book that you had never thought to pick up before. And so I joined this group. And for the first 5 or 6 months, we would gather in each of the members who had chosen the books living room, and we would sit around their coffee table, drink some wine, eat some chips, and read these books. And for 5 months, all of the books we read were written by white authors, about white characters, and clearly for a white audience. And so when it was my turn, I asked them to read a book called Brown Girl Dreaming, written by Jacqueline Woodson, which had recently won the National Book Award. And so I was a little nervous about the choice because first it was free verse poetry, and it was also not written by a white person. So come the day of our book club for Brown Girl Dreaming, we were sitting around in my living room, these other women that I had gotten to know over the 6 months, and I asked them how they liked it. And they all said that it had been a quick read, that they had been surprised at how much they enjoyed the free verse poetry. And we kind of asked the usual questions: what were your favorite characters? What did you like about the book? What didn't you like about the book? And then I pulled out the question that I really wanted them to answer. So I asked them about a particular poem in the book, about the first time that the narrator goes to the bookstore and picks up a book about a boy named Bill. And Bill is a brown boy, and this is the first time that the narrator, as a young girl, picks up a book with a character who looks like her and reflects her story and her family. And so I asked them, why do you think it's important that kids read books with characters who reflect their identity? And there's a long pause. And then one of the women raises her hands or speaks up and says, well, I have a friend who's just adopted a foster child, and her foster child's African American, and she was realizing how hard it is to find wallpaper with black fairies on them. Like all the fairies are white. And so I was like, okay. Kind of waited for other people to get their thoughts going. And then another woman said, well, I really like to read books where I can identify with the characters. Otherwise, it's really hard for me to get into the story. And it wasn't until I first told this story a couple of months ago to our Fabula fellows that I realized how disappointed I was in the answers I was getting. But at the time, all I could say was, oh, I see, well, I can't really identify with this book. I'm not a brown girl who grew up in North Carolina and New York in the 60s, but this character loves to read, and she loves to write, and I really love to read, and I really love to write. And the woman kind of listened and nodded their head. There was another awkward silence, and we moved on. So the book club ended cordially. We scheduled our next meeting for the next month. We chose our next book. And then 2 months from then, I had an appointment come up, and I couldn't make the next book club. So I emailed the group like we usually do when somebody can't make it and said, hey, I'm so sorry, but I'm not going to be able to make this group. Let me know when we meet the next time, and I'll see you guys later. And I never heard back. And usually what happens is they loop you back in, say, sorry, we missed you. Here's what we're reading. Here's when we're meeting. But I never got that email. And so this was a few months ago, and I've since then bumped into some of these women at coffee shops or at work events and just kind of said hi and bye. And it's because for a while, when I realized that I wasn't going to get a response, I wondered, did I really want to have to be the one to reach out and ask to be included again?